All right. I think we are live, people. Sorry, let me mute a bunch of stuff here. Don't need phones going off and everything. Yeah, there we go. All right. So today what I want to do, a little different. I'm going to build a Dojo widget for something I'm actually going to need later on. Modern Dojo is really cool. The website has some really great documentation under the Learn heading here. And if things seem a little slow, it's not the site, it is my Wi-Fi up here. All right, so the doc's got a lot of really cool stuff in here. We'll see some of this as I start building the widget, how middleware kind of works and building and stuff. I've also got another site, Learn Dojo, where I do blog posts on various things about Dojo, and it's actually built with Dojo, which is kind of cool. And some of my blog posts from here are actually getting moved over to the official Dojo blog. So if you go to their blog pages, you'll start seeing some of my blog posts come up here. And I'm actually working on some more blog posts to come up here as well. All right, let's get started. So I have already started. I used the Dojo CLI to go ahead and output the Dojo application. And if I do npm run dev, let's just take a look at what the default apps looks like. Sorry, the default app looks like. Let's give that a second to run. So it's building. It's building. Come on, buddy. Oops, sorry. Let's go. Come on. You can do it. I got faith. There we go. I kind of need a new machine, I think. This laptop seems to struggle a bit running WSL and everything. So, okay. Let's refresh this now. So this is the default application that you're going to get when you use the Dojo CLI. All right, so I've got a home page, I have an about page, profile that's going to take a property for username and then display that profile in here, right? So it's really kind of neat. When you use the Dojo CLI, everything's kind of output for you. If we look at the page looks like, so these are the different widgets that already come with the CLI template app. And then it shows you how to do routing, right? So the routing is done using these outlets in here, which is really kind of cool because when it sees that a widget is used inside of an outlet for routing, it's going to go ahead and create a bundle for that widget, so it's not part of the main bundle. So all this bundling and code splitting is kind of taken care of by the Dojo build tools. But okay, so I'm not going to be using any routing here. What I want is a stop clock widget, a timer, basically. I just need it for a couple of basic little things I want to do. And every time I go looking for one online, they don't quite look how I want. They're a little bit too fancy. So I'm going to just start deleting things in here. They basically, a lot of them are also ad written as well, and I just don't want a lot of ads in there. So I get rid of my widgets. I'm going to get rid of this route, so I'm not going to need it. Let me go into the main TSX. I'm not doing any routing, so I'm going to get rid of this routes object I was using. And maybe at some point, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about routing in another video at some point down the road, but not today. So, okay, so let's get rid of that. And I'm just working in VS Code because it's a little easier doing these screencasts and work inside of VS Code for people. So, okay, so none of these widgets exist anymore, so let's get rid of them. I'm not going to be using outlets, so let's get rid of outlet. I'm not doing any routing in this app. And let's just get rid of all this here. Okay. I'll leave theming in here, and I'm actually going to, you'll see I do some theming for the widget I'm going to build as well, right? So, okay, let's make a new folder. Let's add a widgets folder. I'm going to add a widget called timer. So timer.tsx. I'm also going to need some CSS. So I'm going to add a timer CSS file. That's going to be a CSS modules. And I'm going to add this, although once I use the build tools, I might not actually need it. The build tools will create a DTS file for me as well. But I'm going to go ahead and do that myself. So let's create a root in here. And I'll worry about this after. Let's just get the actual widget itself done. So then what I do here is I do const, export const, I think, right? Root string. So I'm just gonna make the typings myself here. And like I said, once I start using the build tools and adding stuff to my CSS modules, the Dojo build tools will create this typings file for me. So I won't need to keep coming in here and editing it. Okay, so the actual timer file itself. So I need a couple of things here, and yes, I am copy and pasting from something just because it's a little easier. But basically, when you're building Dojo widgets, you want this TSX in here. And this is it's very similar to React. It's going to be doing JSX inside your code, and this is going to be the function that gets transformed into creating the TSX. You need to import that. I'm going to import this create function in here, and we'll see how that's used to do these kind of functional widgets. And I'm also bringing in this middleware, ICache middleware, right? So basically this is going to be a local state for my widget. It's going to hold some properties. I can update those properties, and when those properties get updated, if my widget needs to re-render based on what I'm doing, then it'll go ahead and handle that for me, right? So the way this works now, I'm going to create a something called a factory, which is going to be equal to the create function, right? And that's pretty much all I need there. And if you want to pass any middleware to this widget, you can do the pass it like this, ICache, like that, right? Now, what I want to do is actually not. The default is to call this factory, but I kind of like calling it render. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a function that is going to create a widget for you. Now at this point, I'm going to do an export default of my render, because it basically is a render function. And it's a good habit to give this a named function. So if you want to look at the stack trace, you actually have a function name that you can refer to later on. And this function is going to get my middleware, right? So it gets an object. It's going to have middleware on it. So at this point, I can go ahead and take the middleware off of that, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the iCache that I passed to this, so I can have access to it inside my widget. And I'm going to do some stuff with this right now. So let's see here. So I am going to. This is a stopwatch. Let's go ahead and return this. It's going to be a timer. And this timer is essentially going to go ahead and return, something. It's going to be a clock, a countdown, right? So how would you handle a countdown? You'd be using set interval. All right. So because I know I'll be using set interval, that means I'm going to have an interval ID that I'm going to want to reference inside this widget. So let's go ahead and grab that now. And we're going to grab it from the local widgets cache. So using this iCache here. And all the I means for the iCache means that it will invalidate the properties on this widget. It's going to mark them dirty if you've done any kind of development with components anywhere else. And when they're marked dirty, then that means the widget needs to re-render to render the new properties of some sort. So I'm going to have there's a get or set function on here. And this basically is a way how you can define some default values, right? So if I'm going to get my interval ID, maybe I want to set a default value for that. But I'm actually not going to do that because I do want to know if the interval ID is false, right? Or I'm sorry, not false, but if it's empty or null or whatever. Now, right now, if I were to go over this interval ID here, you see it's marked as any. It's not I don't really want that. I know this will be a number, so I'll just go ahead and type it as number. So now my interval ID has a number type. Awesome. Let's go ahead and let's get I need a count of some sort, right? So I need a time. So what is going to be the current time? So I'll do a const current time is going to be equal to ICache dot get or set. All right, so in this case here, if I don't have a current time, so I'll call timer, and let's go ahead and say 10 seconds, just for quick testing, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and display that in here. I'm going to stringify it. Bam, there we go. So I'm actually not using interval ID just yet. So how am I going to do this? Okay, so let's go and do our set interval function. So basically what I'll do is I'll have a button that's going to start all this stuff, right? So let's go ahead and add a button here, say start, and on click I want to call something. All right, so I want to start the timer. Let me go ahead and just create a function up here so I'm not writing all kinds of code in there. Toggle timer. All right, that's not a big deal. And I'll just pass that over here. So now when I click the start button, I will start doing something. All right. And what I want to do is I want to start my set interval. So const ID is equal to set interval. Oops. And I want this every second because I'm going to be counting down. Okay, so now because I've got the ID for my set interval, I want to set that ID to my interval ID. So let's do an ICache dot set to my interval ID with the ID that I'm getting here. So now in here, what I want to do is say, oops, I think I'm in Vim. Okay, so let's go ahead and do something like if I have an interval ID, I want to do something, right? I want to go ahead and let's grab the count. So what do I call it down here? I call it timer. So let's go ahead and grab timer is equal to ICache dot get or set, and it's called timer, and we were saying what, 10 seconds, right? So inside the interval, I'm going to go ahead and grab it, and then what I'm going to do is that if the timer is already 0, then I want to go and clear the interval ID, clear interval, the ID, so I'm going to stop it. I'm going to nullify, I'm going to null my interval ID. No, not that. That gets set interval ID to null. And I'm going to go ahead and reset the timer. So ICache.set timer, and let's go ahead and make it back to 10. All right, so if that happens, we'll do that. Is that right? Am I doing that right? Yeah. If the timer is, no, not less than 0, less than 1. If the timer is not less than 1. Then I want to go ahead and use this ICache to go ahead and set the timer to timer -1. Oh, jeez. Bad habit. Sorry. Okay, so let's see what that is going to look like. Well, I have to consume it first. Okay, so let's come up here. More timer from widgets, timer. And let's just dump it right in here. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and run it now. So you can see if you're used to doing stuff like with React or any other UI tooling that uses JSX, I mean, it all looks fairly familiar. This is just like a functional widget, but with a little bit more utility to it, because I have these middleware that I can use, which is, I don't want to say it's similar to React hooks, but it kind of is. All right, so refresh that. And if I did something right, I should see something that says start there. And nothing happened. And I don't know why nothing happened. Oh, there it goes. That was fast. And that was because I've got something not set right somewhere, right? So, okay, so let's do this. Because I don't know what I'm doing. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let me actually send past properties for this 10 here, because I want this to be something that can be set by the user, right? So what I can do is define some properties here. Let's do an interface. Actually, no, I need to do it up here, above the create. Let's create an interface for this widget. So this interface timer properties. And let's just go with, I don't know, timer count. And it's going to be a number. So the way you can define what the properties will be on these widgets is with a properties method like that. And then, oops, didn't need that. You can pass the interface for this so that this will have the proper typings inside. So now, just like I was able to pull my middleware out, I'll pull the properties out. And let's go ahead and now say that the timer count is going to be equal to properties. And properties is a method, and this makes sure that you have the latest up-to-date properties. So if the what do you call it? If the property happens to change in the parent widget, then when you call that function, you're always going to make sure you have the latest and greatest values here. All right, so we've got that. Set timer count. All right, now I've got a bunch of errors because over here I need to pass a value. You see that all of the IntelliSense is coming up because it knows what to do. Okay. All right, so I've only done this once before, so let's just make sure I'm doing something right. Let's see, do I need something to tell me I've started? I don't think so. I don't think I need a start property. All right, so if timer is less than 1, we clear an interval. How else we do this? Oh, I'm sorry. No. I need something in here to get everything started, right? So let's say that before I even do the set interval, if I'm already in the middle of something, so if I have started this timer already, then maybe I want to do everything I'm doing here. So let's go ahead, let's copy this. So this is why it's a toggle timer, right? So I'm going to be toggling the timer itself. Maybe I do need a started property. So let's do this. So let's just say for start, so if I have an interval ID, that means I am in the middle of a countdown. And if I don't, that means I want to start a countdown. All right, so it's my button got going on here. Build worked. All right, now let's try this. Come on. Nope. So now it's going. This is what happens when it gets down to 0. And it reset. Okay, some of my logic is there and some of it's not. So let's come over here. All right, so I've got interval ID. I got my timer. So okay, let's go ahead and do, because I was doing this before, but I didn't think I needed it. So let's just set a started, right? So now I have a property on my widget saying whether it's been started or not, which isn't bad because basically I can go ahead and say that, you know, it by default, when I first start the widget, it'll be null. It's going to be undefined or whatever. And then when I click start, that means it's going to be the opposite of whatever this is, right? So we'll go ahead and say that it's going to be true. It started at that point, and then if it's started and the interval ID, then I want to clear the interval ID, set the interval ID to null, and then go ahead and set the current timer to the timer count. Else, I want to do all this. All right, so let's grab this. That's what I forgot to do. If else, people, come on. Do a little build now. Okay, cool. Let's see what this looks like now. Nope. Well, now I really broke it. All right, give me a second here. Let's see here. What have I done horribly wrong? So else, I set my interval. I've got my interval ID that I'm setting here. Got my current time, but click is calling toggle timer. I mean, I think this should work. I'm not sure what I've done wrong now. Started, get started. See, I don't even know if I need this started. I'm very iffy on this. Because if I already have an interval ID, what do I care if I'm getting started? All right. I'm sure somebody is going to be watching this and going, gosh, you are so dumb. What are you doing? So there's my timer count. All right, so let's do this. Let's come over here. Oops. What? Where is... I don't know what happened to my source maps. Could have sworn I had source maps working here. Okay, so let's go back over here. Oh, this is horrible. I hate doing this. Okay, let's do log. And timer. So at least I know I'm in there, right? A function, toggle timer, set of interval ID, clear it, set it, else, start my interval ID, and then same thing if timer goes less than 1. I know I'm just kind of rattling at this point. Come on. Nope, didn't do it. See, so I have an interval ID, it's just not going. Why is it not going? Every 1,000 seconds. Oh, okay. I'm in the wrong spot. Why did I put that here? No. See, that's what it was. I mean, if this is null, then this is never going to happen. So, why'd you guys let me do that? Get rid of that if. No one's got my back here. Come on. All right, so it's refreshing for me. There we go. Amazing. All right, so my timer's working. That's good. Let's get rid of that console log because, yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay. So now I got the basics of a timer going down. Maybe I want to reset my timer at some point. So I'm going to copy this button here. Actually, let me grab both of these, and I'm going to go ahead and do like horizontal rule. I'll wrap these in another div. Put a couple buttons here. Bam. So, okay. So this one is going to be called reset. And when I click on this one, we're going to do a couple things. Well, not a couple. We're just do one thing. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer back to the default state, which is going to be timer count. Maybe I should have called that default timer. You know what? Naming things is hard. Well, I can worry about that later. So I should have two buttons now. Start. And if the middle of my countdown I want to reset, come back up and reset it to what the default should be. Stop. Okay. The basics, the logic of my timer now works. Fairly straightforward. Let me go ahead and do some styling now, right? So I do have the CSS already written somewhere else. And actually what I want to do is I'm going to actually add variables CSS as well. And this is going to hold some theming, all right? And what my themes going to be? Actually, let's worry about that later. Let's bring this in. All right, so I want this timer to also have a cool font. So I'm going to use a cool font with it. My variables are empty. So what variables do I need? I need a button-based color. Let's move this over here. Okay, so I need a button-based color. I'm going to need a button-worn color. So basically what I'm going to do here is that if the timer is under a certain threshold, say like 1 minute, then I want that to be a different color than the regular color. I don't know what I call it, button. I can change that name too. All right, so I got primary colors to deal with, and secondary color, which is basically the color for the fonts. All right, mostly. And then I'm gonna have a shadow color for the button, which can just be kind of whatever. Okay, so you know, this is all horrible, wrong stuff, but let's go ahead and look at some colors. So let me do some searching for some colors real quick. Material, UI, colors. I'm trying to find the material UI color page. Let's grab some colors from there. Come on, Wi-Fi. So I'm doing another window that is not on the screencast. Well, that is, no. I want the color palette. So hopefully you basically saw the basics of what's happening with the actual widget itself, right? So, wow, this just froze my machine, didn't it? There we go. I'm telling you, I need a new machine for this stuff. So let's look at the logic here again, right? So I don't need to start it. Then get rid of that. Oh, come on, so slow. It's like Chrome is eating everything here. All right, so I'm using ICache, which basically is a way that you can do some kind of like local state for your widget. I have properties that's getting passed to it. All right, that works out pretty cool. And then I've got this way to get these properties inside my widget. I've got a function that's going to go ahead and check to see whether or not I'm in the middle of a countdown. And if I am in the middle of a countdown and I click the button, I want to toggle it. So I'm going to go and clear that interval, set it to null, and then reset the timer. Inside the interval, of course, I'm going to do what I want to do. Get the timer value if it's less than 1. Then I'm going to clear the timer, set the widget's interval ID to null, and reset the count. And this will stop this timer here. If not, then inside my timer, do what I want to do. I just want to reset the value to 1. All right, that's pretty much it. And you see the iCache has all these cool like get or set things you can do. So that's neat. Okay, so I've got some colors from my color palette here. So primary color, we'll just make it this blue. Secondary color, I forgot. What am I use secondary color for? Oh, it's just gonna be white. I think that's what I was doing. All right. Shadow colors, so this could be something a little bit darker than the blue. And then the base color for the interval is going to be green. Oops. But then if it gets to a, if it gets under a minute, then I want to put some sort of a warning on it, right? That, yeah, like red. Red's good. So, okay, so now I need to actually use these, right? But I want to go ahead and make this themable so that you can provide your own CSS and override some of my CSS that I want to do, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to import another middleware from Dojo, the theme middleware, and we're going to go and pass that the same way here. We're going to grab it here. Actually, I don't think I want to name this timer. I think this is why I didn't have this named timer before, because some of my CSS is named timer, right? So if we come over here, you see I've got a timer value here, timer base, timer warn. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to go ahead and, where am I? Where did I get the timer from? Ah, here we go. let's just go ahead and rename this. And I gotta admit, this is one of the things I really like with VS Code is the ability to do these renames like that. It's super handy, right? So, okay, so I did my rename there. So now what I can do is I can grab the CSS off of here, but I'm going to pass it through the theme middleware so that if you as a user happen to override the CSS, it'll go in and grab it. Oh, and I need to go ahead and import that CSS as well. So we're going to go up here. We're going to import all as CSS from timer CSS. And remember, there's CSS modules. That's why we got the name in there. Okay, so now what I can do is that these have gone through the theming middleware, the theme middleware, not theming middleware. This one's going to be classes equal to, and I'm going to go ahead and say root. So that's the CSS root. The actual timer. So this one has a little bit of logic built into it. So what I want to do here is I want to say that, of course, I'm going to get timer, but I also have the warning and the base colors in here. So I'm going to do this. So if the current time is less than 60, then I want to show the timer warn. And if not, then the base color. Right, so that's whether it's going to be green or whether it's going to be red color, right? And these buttons are actually going to have their own classes equal to the toggle. So these are going to be the toggle buttons. Let's copy that. All right, am I missing one? I think we used them all. Does not exist on tab. You know, the CSS has to go ahead, has to get rebuilt. Let's see if it'll work here. It might fail this first time. Come on. There we go. Yeah, so it fails that time. And I don't know, this is something with the Dojo CLI. I think it's going to be fixed in Dojo 7 for the CLI build tools, where it when it sees that you've added new CSS names in here, then the first time it builds it errors because it doesn't see them, but it's going to add them. So the next time you build, they'll be there in the typings available to go. See here, so it adds them into the typings for me. But it doesn't happen the first time around. And I think that is fixed in Dojo 7 though. Dojo that I'm using right now is the current release version, which is version 6. Okay, so come on, buddy. You can do it. Still building, still building. All right, so I'll make sure everything's in here the way I want it. Okay, let's come back to my page. Timer, there we go. So if I want to start the timer, 9, 8, 7, 6. When it hits 0, it should just automatically reset by itself. Bam, reset. Awesome. So let me just go ahead and make sure that the colors for the green and the red are going to change as I want them to. So let's set this to 65 seconds. I should go ahead and refresh the page by itself once the build. Yeah, there it goes. All right, so start. So as it gets under 60 seconds. Awesome. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so I want to do one more thing because, you know, this is actually 1 minute, 5 seconds. So I kind of would like it if I had like a 5-minute timer that it was 5 minutes and not 300 seconds. I mean, that would give me some major anxiety staring at like 300-second timer. So, okay, I have a function here that I'm just going to go ahead and place in here. Function is just going to go ahead and take my seconds, which I would use, but I'm going to be using seconds value down here. It's going to take my seconds, it's going to give figure out the minutes. Then it's going to figure out the leftover seconds from it. Then I'm going to format that number in here. Let's close that up. I'll format my number, but I'm going to add a padding of zeros to the start. So it's going to be like 0.5 minutes. And as the seconds go down, like under 10, it'll be 0.9 and not just 9, right? It won't look weird. So I'm going to add that pad start there. Let's go ahead and let's use this. Where am I? Oh, current time. So I don't have to stringify that anymore because I'm going to get a string back. So let's do format time, the current time. Save that. Come on, you done building it? You done building it? Almost, almost. There we go. And let's see what it looks like. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. Start. 4, 3, 2, 1. And it turns red. And bam, there we go. Nice. I got my 0, 0 and the 57 and so on and so forth. All the nice padding. It looks like a legit clock now, right? Awesome. So that is how you can go ahead and build a Dojo widget. It's not too difficult. Like I said, these the middleware, like the ICache and the theme, these are, I don't want to say they're similar to React hooks. I mean, they kind of look like React hooks, and I hate really making the comparisons there, but I know a lot of people are familiar with React and some of that terminology, so that's why I was kind of giving you something to think about how they work off of, which is cool. Just give you some comparisons and context, right? That's what I'm looking for. Look at me, I can't even talk. Right, so that's kind of cool. It's neat. If you want to learn more about Dojo and how the middleware works, you definitely go to the Dojo.io. You can read the documentation under the Learn heading, and there's specific documentation for creating widgets, middleware, routing. Testing is also a really nice feature that's built in with the Dojo CLI, which I like a lot. And the stores. Stores are really neat. I'll probably cover stores at some other point. We saw the iCache middleware, which is basically like the local state of the widget, but there's stores and processes you can use to do application level state for your widget, which is really kind of neat. All right, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed this quick little section on screencast on Dojo widgets. Remember, I do have a blog called Learn Dojo. Hasn't been too many updates to it recently because I'm working on some new stuff to go on the actual Dojo blog over here. So hit me up if you got any questions, and I'll see you next time around. Thank you.